to the real estate lab where the market's the game. Austin's aboard and we're changing the frame. Buyers and sellers and investors alike, tune in often and we'll set your path right. From the hottest market during the COVID days to higher rates now, leaving many in a daze. Inventory's up, decisions are tough, but with our insights, you'll have the right stuff. National news got you feeling unsure. We're your local source with knowledge that's pure. Ian of Austin, Daphne, and JJ too, breaking it down just for you. RELab ATX, we're your guiding light, navigating Austin day and night. Whether buying, selling, or investing your way, we're here to help every hour of the day. Interest rates are high and some opportunities lie in the heart of Texas, under the big sky. Don't let the headlines lead you astray. We've got the facts to guide your way. From downtown condos to suburban streets, we know the spots where value meets. Tune in frequently, stay ahead of the curve, with insights and tips y'all deserve. No jargon, no fluff, just real talk, helping you take that real estate walk. In Austin's market, ever so grand, we're your trusted helping hand. RELab ATX, we're your guiding light, navigating Austin day and night. Whether buying, selling, or investing your way, we're here to help every hour of the day. So plug in, subscribe, don't miss a beat. With the Real Estate Lab, your journey's complete. Ian of Austin, Daphne, and JJ, guiding you through, come what may.
Hello, and welcome back to the Real Estate Lab today. In this beautiful August day in Austin, Texas, I'm one of your hosts today. I'm Daphne. We're here with JJ, Ian, and my good friend and also trusty lender, Alejandro Juarez.
Hello.
Feel free to say hi.
I was just saying hello. Hi, everybody.
Well, our topic for today is, or I guess our title for today is, are low interest rates a good thing for Austin? That sounds very Martha Stewart. I don't know if you guys remember, but Martha Stewart would say, like, fill in the blank. It's a good thing. So anyway, I digress. So there has been, I thought of this topic for our episode today, mostly because the Fed meets multiple times a year. And I feel like every time that they meet, people are like, they're going to drop interest rates. They're going to drop interest rates. It's going to be this huge thing. And they haven't touched those interest rates in like a year and a half, if not two, I think. And every time the interest rates, particularly for mortgage or housing interest rates, shift, even in the slightest, people talk about it. I had a conversation the other day with someone and she's like, did you hear interest rates dropped? Oh my God. And it was not a lot. By the way she was talking about it, I thought they were back in like the low fives, and they are certainly not there. So I invited my lender and my good friend to join us so he could share some insight. Nothing you say today will be official. We're not going to hold you to anything. Just want to get your thoughts, input. We do a lot of creative thinking here. So yeah. To start with, and this is a question for everyone. Do you guys believe, now, I'm sorry, let me back up. Fed is going to be meeting again, I believe in mid-September. Do you guys believe that there is going to be any notable change that would potentially have an effect on our housing market in the nation, not just in Austin? Whoever wants to take it away.
JJ, you want to go at it first? I'm happy to jump in. I talk a lot, man. I will literally talk the whole dang thing. So
you're the guest. Go for it.
With that.
Yes.
You're the guest. Go for it.
All right, man. Well, I would say that I don't think that they're going to cut rates in September. Today there was a PPI report that came out. It's an inflation report that speaks to the costs that producers are absorbing. And that basically is inflation that's coming down the pipeline that eventually is going to affect consumer pricing. And so you're seeing rates suffer right now. So we're down 17 basis points. Usually that's because they're predicting inflation is going to be up. So rates are going to worsen as a result. So I don't think that they'll cut. But honestly, we're in an era right now economically where it is a complete and total freak show of events from week to week. There's all of these crazy announcements between, tariffs, between jobs reports, firing the so it's like it's really hard to predict what will happen. But if I had to bet, I would probably bet that they're going to hold steady, which in my opinion is okay. And I can go on and on about why that is, but I think that the problem ends up usually being that people often misunderstand the way that rates work. I don't think the Fed will cut them, but I don't think that'll necessarily be bad for mortgage rates long term.
Other fellas?
Let me start with using Grok, which, like I was talking about, I'm not sure how credible it is. So I usually use ChatGPT.
We said creative thinking, not robot thinking.
Well, I'll also mention, JJ, sorry to interrupt. I'll also mention that my opinion changed because of the report that was released this morning. Had that report not been released this morning, I would have maybe had a different response. But because that was released this morning at 8, I was like, oh damn, like they're definitely not going to cut rates now. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'm not sure if they're going to cut or not because there's different probability things. Mm-hmm. I mean, overall, we're still inflated. I think Austin is super inflated. Mm-hmm. So, as much as we love lower interest rates, I think housing is also very expensive in general. And also depends on who you ask. Somebody with a lot of real estate may appreciate high prices. And somebody without would like to get their foot in the door with more affordable prices. But I do think Austin's like top of inflation cities.
Mm-hmm. I have an alternate theory right now. The first thing is I would love, Alejandro, if you could at some point, depending on what Daphne wants for like the order of operation, but at some point, maybe even like pull up that report and talk about how you evaluate it and just kind of showcase it, right? Because that's good. Because knowing that there was new information in like this morning is like, oh, I didn't know that. Because I'm not a lender, I'm a realtor. So that's one thing that I would love to talk about. But also, I look at it like just Monday, I had a closing, and this is a resale. We closed at 6.5% interest rate, right? Not an ARM, nothing crazy, but I thought, oh, that's down a little bit. So that seemed pretty interesting because you hear rates haven't dropped. So the Fed hasn't dropped the rates, but the mortgage interest rates have still come down as a result of whatever the companies or, it's still being adjusted. So I thought that was pretty good. And this person that we closed on had a pretty bad DTI. Like, so there's no reason they should have had a favorable rate to begin with.
Right.
So I thought, okay, that's good. 6.5. That's reasonable. And I've got another person who just called me yesterday saying that they're going to refinance because rates are down. And I'm like, are they though? Oh. Like, explain. Yeah, it's really strange. So I kind of want to talk about that too. If you can
it's
light on that for us.
Yeah, I have the PPI inflation report in front of me. I can share it with you if you like. I do want to speak to the anecdote that you shared about that 6.5 in that, I mean, that's very likely. We have a program right now where rates, I priced someone yesterday, locked someone under 6%. And obviously I don't want to get too crazy because of compliance issues, but they did lock under 6%, no points. It was just a straight up amazing program. It's not going to be around for very long, but it is a great program that we use. And then we have other clients that are locking at 6.7, 6.8, 6.9, depending on the features of that particular client's profile and the house and all kinds of things. I think the first thing I want to go back to is make sure that for all of the people that are watching, when people talk about the Fed cutting rates, and I've been talking about this for years, and even in the news, they do a really bad job of explaining this. But if they were to cut rates in September, it should not be expected that it would impact mortgage rates at all. And the reason for that is because mortgage rates follow inflation. They follow inflation and job reports. And generally, by the time the Fed has made a decision about cutting rates, mortgage rates have likely adjusted weeks prior. Now, sometimes the Fed raises rates, and that's kind of an alarm. And then mortgage rates respond really aggressively, negatively, because they're kind of surprised. Holy cow, they're raising rates, and that must mean something bad. And then rates skyrocket. So I just want to clear up for people is if you're tracking or wanting to track where rates are gonna go, definitely don't pay attention to the Fed or the Fed dropping rates. Look at things like the CPI report, the core inflation report.
Share it with us.
Yeah, PPI report. Let me
We don't know what it looks like.
sign here.
Where do we find it?
And I am going to go to share screen. And then I am going to go to this window right here and share. So it should be on the screen now. Tell me if you see that.
Mhm.
So this is the report that came out today. This is the producer price index. It jumped 0.9% in July compared with the estimate that they were expecting, which is 0.2%. The surprise here was that this is the biggest monthly increase since June of 2022. And so the speculation is that the cause of this is that producers are starting to feel the impact of tariffs, right? If you've got, as an example, I don't know if you guys saw this in the news, but Arizona Tea, which for decades and decades and decades has been known for selling that huge can of iced tea for 99 cents.
Yep.
They just released an update or report saying that they're for the first time not going to be able to do that because aluminum prices have gotten so expensive that it's literally impossible for them to sell them at 99 cents. And so that's a perfect example of what this PPI is representing, is that this impact of tariffs has not yet gotten quite to the consumer pricing index yet. But if you're seeing manufacturers get hit by it, it's eventually coming right down the pipe. And so that's why the Fed hasn't wanted to cut rates, because they're like, hey, we see inflation is somewhat controlled. It's not too bad. We could cut rates, but you're also introducing all of these policies that we don't know the impact of yet. That's why they've been holding off. And now you see a report like this and you're like, oh, dang, okay. Now, how that impacts rates completely depends on how the market responds to it. It has nothing to do with whether Jerome Powell wants to lower the rates 0.25%. What matters is this thing right here, which is the mortgage bond securities tracker. And so this is monitoring what rates are selling for, or what mortgages are selling for on the secondary market. And you can see the red as it goes down, rates are going up. As it goes up, rates are going down. And you can see that yesterday, or the past couple of days, it was kind of flat. And then the day before, on the 12th and the 13th, we saw an improvement. And then all of a sudden this morning, when that report came out, guess what? Boom, back down. Now, negative 15 basis points is really not that big of a difference. You know, if someone was at 6.6 today, maybe they went to 6.7, but most likely they held on to 6.6. And so this just tells us the trend, right? You don't want to mess with the trend too much. And that's why I always tell people that if you go under contract, the day you go under contract, you should lock. And people really shouldn't play that game where they're like, okay, I'm under contract now. Let me see what I can do. Let me spend the next couple of days figuring out what kind of deal I can get. Like you are wasting time because the market is reacting so fast that you could literally lose thousands of dollars by delaying a day.
Okay.
And I'll say one more thing and then I'll give up the floor. But when you look at this, this is 5 days prospectus. This is a month. This is 3 months, right? And this is 6 months. This is the past 6 months. So if anybody were to look at this, and the same thing that I talk about with my clients, if I show this to my clients, I tell them, what do you see? And they're like, I don't know. They're not supposed to know, right? But I tell them what you should see is volatility. What you should see is that there are these crazy swings up and down. And when you look at all-time records and you look over here for let's go 5 years because the all-time is going to get a little tricky. Let's go from 2022, right around here, all the way back to over here where we're in 2020. And we could probably go back a little bit further to 2018, 2019. Right here's 2019, and all you see is improvement, 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 improvement for 3 years straight, basically. And then you could see the entire thing fall apart all after COVID when the government pulled back on buying mortgage bond securities. You don't want to be messing around with whether you lock or not over here. If somebody would have gone under contract with me in 2019 and said, hey, I want to float for about a week, I would have said, sure, that makes sense because the market's steady. There's not really a lot of crazy stuff happening. You're safe to probably float. But in today's market, in today's game, it's just not worth the risk. It's like you're playing roulette or craps, you know, with your rate on a daily basis.
That's a lot of information.
Yeah. Is it helpful?
Yeah. You've shown me this graph before, but we've not talked about it in much detail. So yeah, and it's said. And then where they are today.
Sorry, you cut off for a second, Daphne. I'm not sure.
I was just saying it's a bummer to see where they were at during the start of the pandemic and where they are today. But obviously those were very unique circumstances, and there's a lot of
very, very unique, definitely.
A lot of moving pieces there. Cool. Okay. Well, let's talk about the housing market a bit. When
I love this, by the way. I love being able to show a visual like that because a lot of times we talk about things that are happening in our world, but people don't necessarily get to connect that with the larger world, right? Like the Fed doing their thing and and the United States and Canada fighting and causing our aluminum prices going up isn't always indicative of what's happening specifically in Austin. So if we're focusing on Austin, how does this connect? And so seeing that at a higher level is just a wonderful thing. So thank you for taking the time to show that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually really interesting what you said about the Arizona tea, because I remember a couple of years ago when we started having issues with inflation, that was something that I had heard from multiple sources that like, oh, Arizona tea saying they're not going to raise their prices. No way. Because they can turn a profit with 99-cent cans.
Well, and think of how many gas stations you walk into or convenience stores and you see that. You see they're literally everywhere. Like that's part of our culture. It's more than HEB.
Yeah.
Right? They're all across the
absolutely
United States. So that's a huge indication.
Do you know what they're going to take their price up to?
They didn't say. I don't remember if they actually did say or not. I just remember them speaking to the fact that there's no way that they could be 99 cents anymore.
That sucks.
Yeah. But it makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense because, you know, this is kind of what the fight has been for so long about this topic is, you know, who's going to absorb that cost. And to me personally, no matter what your political leanings are, is none of my business. But when you just think about the economic aspect of it, when have we known there to be corporate benevolent companies that are like, oh, we'll just eat that cost for you. You know what I mean? Because that's what we do. I mean, come on. We see gas stations where one gas station's $2.40, the other one's $3. Why? Because they can. Because they can, right? And so that generally happens across the board with most companies, not all, but you generally are going to see a trickle-down effect over time, and we'll see what that turns into.
You know, I have a crazy idea. Like imagine, like here's an example. If this was, let's say it was a local tea company and they said, you know what, we're going to have to raise costs unless we have a subsidized collaboration. And I'm sitting there like, if you came to me as a local realtor and I wanted to have marketing, I already have a marketing budget, I would love to subsidize the cost of the can. So let's say for every can that's supposed to be $1, my pay is 5 cents. Mm-hmm. But then I got a little marketing badge on there. Customers might hate the idea of it, but for me, it's marketing dollars I'd have to spend anyway. And then for Arizona, they can still keep their price at $1.
That's a crazy idea. Yeah, that's a crazy idea.
Love it.
Yeah.
And that's a chance for them to get into local area economics.
That's actually a pretty cool idea.
That's really interesting. Because you know how they have like the Arnold Palmer face on there or something?
Exactly.
Ian Williams of Austin.
I would do it all day.
That's a great idea, actually, man. It really is.
Okay, so I'm actually very curious now. What would the numbers really look like on that? Because let's say they do like millions and millions of cans. Let's say even 500,000. Mm-hmm. Oops.
Well, but that's the thing. So if they're doing it in local markets, logistically it'd be a challenge. But as a local realtor, they have 10,000 to choose from that are actually doing. Sorry, they have like 3,000 that are actually doing business to choose from. And so of that 3,000, maybe 500 of us have a budget that we'd be willing to spend on this, if even that many. So really, you're just talking to the group, the cohort. So you go to ABOR and you say, what are the 500 realtors that are actually doing a good job? Talk to the brokers, talk to the realtors and say, hey, which one of you wants to have your special can series, right? And they do this in all the markets. And then now they're getting personal. It's a corporation, but they're getting personal, you know? And then the clients.
I love the idea, man. I really do. I think it's kind of a genius. How to get
the whole
there,
point of
who
tariffs
knows,
too.
but it's a good idea.
That's the whole point of tariffs, to incentivize money within your own economy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what ends up. That's the thing about all of this stuff too. Is I try to tell people is that you have whatever anyone thinks, it's all unknown. Like we don't really know and won't know. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I think to some degree, it's kind of, what we need. To some degree, it's not. I mean, it has so many different layers to it, because I can tell you that as a mortgage lender, I know this to be a fact. And this is something that's always really difficult to share with people. And that is that in order for interest rates to improve, the economy has to suffer. It's just the way that it works. What they were trying to do is ease us back in over a really long period of time. And now, they're trying to accelerate that. But the issue is that you have these two competing things. It's like if the economy is booming, right, then there's more jobs. If there's more jobs, then there's more spending. If there's more spending, then inflation is up. And if inflation is up, then rates are going to go up. So to balance both bringing down rates and the economy doing really well at the same time is really, really difficult. Will it work? Who knows? We're kind of all here for the show, and on a monthly basis, we're getting these reports, and over time, we'll end up finding out. We'll be able to look back and find out whether it worked or not.
Yeah, I was an econ major at UT, like in the 2000s. Yeah. And, you play with the supply demand curve, but it's a very isolated thing, like one party and another party. And I remember the mortgage crisis happened, the 08 one at the time. And, I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is all theory. Like, there's no way you could graph every element of life.
Yeah, 100%.
Demographics and society. But, we got to figure it out. So you got to study it.
Yeah. Yeah. And even I say it all the time. I mean, the amount of stuff that I know is peanuts. It's like nothing compared to people that do this for a living and that are really dug into it. I mean, sometimes I speak to people and I'm like, oh, Jesus, you're speaking a completely different language. And so, yeah, there's a lot that goes into this stuff. But we try to share it with clients in a way that's, as easy to understand as possible.
That's why we're here. We're
to
interpret all this.
That's why we're a team. Yeah, we need our lenders to explain this kind of stuff. It's multifaceted.
Well, and each other, because we all have a different language too.
Uh-huh.
Like this is not being done other places in the country very well or very frequently. Right. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're coming together, we're all different walks of life and different experience levels, different everything. And we're here just imparting whatever we learn to people of Austin, because that's what Austin is. It's an amalgamation of thoughts and emotions and cultures. So we're happy to be here.
And dreams.
Hope and dreams. Exactly that. Yes. Sorry, okay. Davin, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. But one of my thoughts / questions on this. I remember when inflation really started becoming an issue, people, consumers were saying that home prices were going to go down to pre-pandemic levels. And at the time, I remember thinking very stubbornly, no way, that's not going to happen. That's not going to be the case at all in Austin. And now, what is it, 3 years later, that's kind of happening. Maybe not pre-pandemic, but pretty close by. What are you guys seeing? Ian?
Well, I was going to say the prices are only down because the interest rates are high. That's what people were worried about. They were like, well, I want a low interest rate, but I want the prices to drop.
Right.
And but people didn't know that you can't have both. That's really
Right.
the issue. And that's kind of the
Right.
point of this podcast, right? Like this particular episode, because if the thing was always, I can't afford it now because prices are too high. But if the price comes down, so like let's say a house was 700,000, now it's 500,000, but you're at an 8% interest rate, you still can't afford the house. So it doesn't actually change, but people think that it changes their affordability.
Right.
That's the problem. People hear something on the media, they run with that one idea, that isolated concept, but there's 10 other things. Like to all of our points, all of your points, well, all these things matter too. It's not just the price of the house. The biggest conversation I have with every home buyer is just because you see a sales price on Zillow or Realtor or whatever, or on your realtor's website, that is not going to tell you what the monthly payment is. You need to understand what the monthly payment is, unless you're paying cash, period. End of discussion.
Even then.
And then where those pieces are going.
Yeah.
We could look at the stats. I have a graph here.
Okay.
So this is Redfin. So let's say, well, it only lets me go back 5 years.
I mean, this is valuable still, though.
And this is July of 2025. Austin proper, because I see that 5 mark. Because Greater Austin area is like 400s, right?
It's like
So-
the average price is like 534. I think it was last month.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
Don't they
mid-5-ish.
drop it tomorrow? Drop it already.
What's that?
Daphne,
You
did they drop it already? Did they drop
What?
the updated market info today?
for July? I don't think so yet.
I saw this. This is great. This is Greater Austin.
Oh yeah,
area
is that now?
for.
But is
it
that
says
July?
monthly. It's on ABOR. Unlock.
Right. But they always keep it on ABOR. The question is, what month is it for? Is it July or is it June?
It doesn't.
Because they usually drop it on the 15th.
It even might be June because it says looking for
There you
July.
go, for July. So those are the new numbers right there.
Oh,
Everybody, those are the new
you know,
numbers.
okay, real
Leave
quick
a
on
comment.
this.
Looking for July. Oh, yes. Sales and leasing.
Real quick on this. They say the Greater Austin area. I'm not sure what they mean by that, because then they've got other infographics that are specific to Travis County, Hayes County, Williamson, etc. So it's just. I'm
Yeah,
curious.
so it says
It's the Greater Austin is the 5 metro counties.
Yeah, it says the city of Austin
Hayes,
and
Bastrop,
Travis, Williamson.
Williamson.
The 5 counties. Hayes, Bastrop, Caldwell. That's what they call the Austin Round Rock MSA.
Cool.
Yeah, so 435 there. But I like looking at Austin proper.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go there. Okay. So we got July 2020 at the bottom of the screen. Can you see that? 426,030.
Yeah.
And then you see we're getting into, let's go to a peak point. May of 2022, 667.
Yeah, that's about when everything started falling apart, around March, April of 2022.
He's
Yeah.
right.
That's where you hope you
And
save your money and buckle up.
I had a client that reached out, I think it was like early May of 22, and she needed to sell her house. And we just sold it. It took 2 weeks to sold. Whatever. Y'all know it. It took 2 weeks to sold. And that's when, for me anyway, I was like, oh my God, there's a shift going on, because it was in like South Central Austin, really cool floor plan, needed work. But anyway, whatever. Yes, I clearly remember that. That was June of 2022.
Yeah, I remember selling stuff that summer, and I felt like Indiana Jones before he gets crushed by the door. I was like, we all got out.
Yeah.
You like barreled roll just to
Yeah.
get there in time.
Like, we made it. And then you started picking up clients, and it started getting nasty regarding listings. So if we go, so again, bring it back, July 2022, 426,000. Let's go to July of 2025, 555,000.
425,000 to 550, you said?
Yeah. 426 to 555 over a 5-year period.
Yeah. That's actually pretty
Well,
still. It's consistent appreciation.
What's so
that's all.
interesting about this is you have a lot of people that were like, hey, it's going to crash, right? You always heard that word crash, But if you look at it, what it did is it rose really high and then it still came down to kind of the middle. It never crashed. It's just correcting. And this is what on this channel we've always been talking about. It's not crash. It's not dive bombing. You're not going to get a $300,000 house again. At least
not anywhere worth living.
Yeah, not right. Well,
who said that?
It's the house that was 200,000 went up to 400,000 and now it's at 300,000. Right? The house that was 500,000 went up to 800,000. Now it's 600. Right? You're still up, but what happens is they got a lot of houses under contract and they paid over what a listing price should be because they were competing with other people, and they didn't account for fees and property taxes because they didn't have a good real estate agent that explained those things, and or their life shifted before they could do anything about it. Because people move for love or money. If your job changes, you've had a house for 2 years, you shouldn't sell it. I don't care who you are, unless you're way up. You should hold on to it because there's a low probability that you've actually increased equity in that short amount of time, unless you were paying extra or something, right? I try to tell my people, hold on to this house until you build some equity. Houses are 5-year, 10-year investments. They're not 1-year investments unless you're flipping. And we saw that disaster too.
So this is still roughly a 30% increase from five years, 30% in 5 years.
That's actually a lot.
If you look at 2021 over on the very left, right there, if you stop right there, compared to where we are now, I mean, to have that kind of sustainability, to me, that's what I see. I'm like, God bless. Like, that's pretty incredible strength from the Austin real estate market.
Austin, because other places are not like this.
Right,
I love
right,
that we're
exactly.
like this.
Right, and that's what I always tell people.
New buyers, I say, or sellers, I say, if we never had COVID, pretend COVID never happened. That's where we are today. That's the trend. Just pretend COVID never happened.
Yeah,
but
I totally agree with that.
I was gonna say, anybody who bought a house in 2019 or before, ask them if they regret buying. 2019 or before. Ask them if they
I'm
regret
curious
buying.
what your answer is going to be, because I have a very opinion about this.
Say
what is your answer going to be? What do you think?
Let's ask Daphne. Daphne, if
What?
you bought a house in 2019 or before, do you regret that you bought it?
Absolutely not.
JJ?
No. I mean, if I could hold on to it and rented it, or if I lived in it, yeah, I love it.
No, but even still, if you sold it, do you regret that you had it?
What do you mean? So bought when?
Because if you were just renting that entire time, you would have been like, oh, missed out.
Oh, if I sold it?
Like whether you sold it or kept it. You
Yeah,
bought it before 2019.
Well, I was
What
just
were you
going to
gonna say,
say that.
Alejandro?
I was just going to say that I just recorded a video about perspective where I talk to people about needing, like, that's one of the things that I think people need the most when they enter the real estate market. And when it comes, and I start the story in the year 2018, 2019, because in my opinion, the people that killed it the most in real estate were people that bought in 18 and 19. Mm-hmm. Those people killed it. Why? Because they bought before things got crazy. They bought when the market was relatively normal. They likely were able to refinance in 2020 when rates dropped like crazy. And as long as they didn't sell super quick, they likely, absolutely ran away with it. Because if they bought in 18, 19 and sold in 21, 22, they killed it. I mean, they killed it. If they bought in 18, 19 and refinanced in 2020, 2021, they killed it. Like, they absolutely killed it. And for those that bought in 21 and 22, some of them are okay now, but I think a lot of them way overpaid for houses because of the competition. And I think that that's why I argue that I'm happy with where rates are right now. And I think that I'm hopeful that they'll stay somewhere in the high 5s, low 6s to kind of stabilize things a little bit, because I think that that's where the market, at least for now, is healthy. I mean, I would love to be in the 4s. My God, I would kill for that. But to be realistic in what we're experiencing right now, if we hover around this high 5, low 6 territory, you still are able to negotiate. And I think that that is the most powerful thing that buyers have at their disposal. That was something that did not exist at all in 2020 and 2021. And I think that that perspective is what's missing for most home buyers today, because they think, oh, well, this house is listed for 350 and, you know, I want this and I want that and I want that. And then they get it. And then it's still not good enough. They're like, no, I'm just going to, you know, I want more. But it's like, man, just a few years ago, you know, if you were making an offer, you might not even hear from the listing agent. They might not even respond to you. Like the idea that you were going to ask for title policy, laughable. The idea that you would ask for sales price reductions, crazy, insane. And so I think that's something that people often miss and don't get about what's going on right now.
I was helping some buyers and we went and looked at a house. There was a line. I talked to the agent later. We were going to submit an offer. I talked to the agent. 73 offers. It was in Avery Ranch.
When was this?
73.
21?
Avery Ranch in 2021.
Wow.
Insane.
Yeah, it was
73 offers. It made the news. Like that's just incredible.
Did you win?
Oh no, we were far.
Yeah.
Not even close. Because, well, here's the thing. It was a freestanding condo. It was one of those.
Oh,
And so, you know, I try to tell people, I'm like, you got to be careful with that, especially if there's a high association fee or something like that, or if it's non-warrantable. I know you guys know that, right? So all of these little nuances, I'm like, you don't want to. The condo is not the same investment as a freestanding home. So
I
advise them against going crazy again for that one.
What were some of y'all's highest, people that over purchased? Like I know mine, the biggest one was 100K over asking. And I remember it was a close friend of mine. And I was like, my God, are you sure? And he was like, oh man, it's not that bad. I thought it was going to be worse than that. And I was like floored by the response. And yeah, he just paid an extra 100K to purchase this house, you know, in that time, because rates were so crazy low. And that's what it took for some of those houses that were up in the 700-800s. You know, he paid 100K over asking. And, you know, that was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it was, you know, 10, 20% stuff.
Yeah.
Easily. And now, so I got licensed in 2012. So I've been a realtor. This year will be 13 years. And we all have varying levels of time in this industry, but we've all seen some crazy things. And my mom got into real estate in Minnesota in, I think, like 1998, more or less, 97. And I clearly remember a conversation where she and like some of the other agents in her office, because people would actually go into an office, and houses would sit on the market for like 3 or 4 months. And that's just the way it was. And that was okay. Nobody was freaking out about it. And then when the recession hit, at least in the North, and like I know Florida, you had these foreclosed homes that would sit on the market for like a year and a half. That's a whole other thing, but it just made me think of that. So, yeah.
That was a wild west to me of mortgage, that 2020, 2021, first half of 2022 era. It was just wild. You just saw crazy things all the time.
We were working together a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be like, I need you to approve this person, done, approve this person, done, approve. It was like consultation call, go talk to Alejandro immediately.
It was like literally you'd pre-approve somebody on day one, and then by literally later that day or the next morning, they were under contract or making offers. It was like that fast.
Yeah.
7-day closings were very normal. We were doing 7-day, 14-day closings a lot. It was nuts. I can't remember if it was Daphne that this happened with or somebody else, but I remember getting a call and somebody telling me that they were on the way to a house that just was listed. And so they were driving there. They got there within 30 minutes and the house was already under contract. And I was like, how is this even possible right now?
Yeah, but that's kind of tricky, because I would get these listings that I knew were going to come on the market, and I'd shout it out, and I'd have people sending me offers before I could even get it online. The only reason I would put it online is so that all of us got a little more marketing and maybe another opportunity and an offer. But if you tell somebody you have an off-market property for your client and they say, I'll give you 100,000 over, like my job is to talk to my client about it. Like, I haven't even put this on the market. They're offering us 100,000 over. Do you want to go through the showing process and all that and see if you can get more? And if they said, no, I'd like to skip it, I'll take that offer. That's on them.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff happens. But then,
yeah, I never even.
like,
Yeah.
That helps understand, because I
it's
remember that
crazy.
story forever, and I always wondered, like, how did that happen? How was that even possible? But now I get it.
Oh yeah, your 0 day contract listings. So I do have to ask a question, just so we make sure that we're giving the payoff to the people that have spent the time with us to watch this entire video. Do you think lower interest rates are a good thing for Austin, Texas?
What?
All of y'all.
Me?
Everybody.
I'll go.
Daphne.
Yeah, I'll go. Daphne.
No, you go last. You're the lender.
Okay, I'll go last.
I think this is such a multifaceted question with multifaceted answer. Because let's say tomorrow interest rates do drop down even to like 5.5%, which is a pretty significant drop. That's going to give home buyers a lot of buying power, a bit of buying power. We've got to get through the inventory that we have right now. I just looked it up, and in just the 3 main counties, Travis, Williamson, and Hayes, not the other ones, Caldwell or any of that, we have almost 13,500 homes on the market. That's a lot. That's still a lot. Earlier this year, we had like 15,000 and some change. So will it be good? Potentially. It just depends what the inventory is and what people's demand is. But the other thing that goes with it too is that so many people are being laid off from their tech jobs. Austin is so heavy into tech. I have a friend from the gym who works at Indeed, or was working at Indeed, and he would go to the gym during his lunch hour. He's like, I love working there. It's fantastic. The work-life balance, blah, blah, blah. He got laid off, and nobody saw it coming. He's one of thousands. So even though interest rates were to potentially come down, we've got to get through the inventory. And our folks, residents, confident enough to make that move with their current job situation? I don't know. We don't know. We won't know until further down. That's my take.
So one thing that you said there that I just want to point out is we currently have 18,000 agents in the Austin market, and we have 13,000 houses for sale. That's all.
That's so funny. Where did you find that there's 18,000 agents?
In the MLS. So I watch it all the time because, the percentage is like less than 10. I think it's 5%. 5% of them do more than 2 deals a year.
Right,
a lot of people just have an account, but people don't know that, like they don't know that. And some people nowadays are getting it just so they have access, so that they can feed it into one of these AI apps, so that they can kind of create AI apps. Like, it's ridiculous. So people are just getting accounts. Well, anyway, all that to say, at one point there was a parity where it was one agent per listing, which is hilarious for Austin. That's why some agents are not selling anything at all.
I'm curious how those numbers shifted from like the peak of the market to now. We're doing a mortgage bankers Zoom not that long ago, maybe like a couple months ago. And they were talking about how the number of loan officers that exist now compared to at the peak of the pandemic and lower interest rates, I think it's been something ridiculous, like a 70% decrease in licensed loan officers that are still actively doing business.
Wow.
Which is nuts, because I do remember during that time, a lot of people were jumping into real estate, and a lot of people were jumping into lending during that time to kind of jump on the wagon. And then I don't know what the statistics are for real estate, but I do know that a ton of lenders that were around are no longer around, because obviously, business has been rough for a lot of them. But have you seen the same happen in real estate, where the real estate numbers, the license numbers have changed?
Yeah.
Such a good question.
I think my office, because it's a pretty big office, maybe like 500 something agents.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we might have lost like 100.
Yeah.
Maybe like 20%.
I actually joined,
significant.
When I joined real estate, I joined in JJ's office.
Oh, cool.
When I joined, and when we started, there were 825 people in that office.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Just that office. And it was one of 5 Keller Williams offices back in 2015. Don't tell anybody.
But it's also a skewed thing, because not just because you have a license, like you might not sell anything.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
just because I dribble a basketball doesn't make me a professional basketball player.
Yeah. Something that
Right.
just would be cute.
But also to that point, there are like 3 or 4 people that joined with me that are still in the business today.
Right.
From that office specifically.
They have you to guide
Oh,
them.
I'm still here.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
But I'm saying it. No, they're not here. Everybody's gone to different places or just completely got out of the industry altogether.
Yeah. I
Most
think
of them have gotten out of it.
the retention is low to begin with. It's very small percentage does a majority type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a purge for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing for the industry.
I think it's good
Sorry, Matt.
these types of times are really good for just like cleansing in general. Whatever industry it's in, you end up getting the strong ones. It's survival of the fittest at the end of the day. Who's gonna run through the forest barefoot being chased by a bear and survive? Us.
Arizona T.
Because we're gangster.
Arizona T will.
Huh?
Arizona T will.
I mean, yeah.
I was actually just
JJ.
talking to my assistant, Jamie, today about how I might have to go to Houston because of this deal and like this funky situation that's going on. I don't want to give too many details. And I'm like, I might just drive to Houston. But Jamie was like, you're going to drive to Houston? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to let this freaking deal fall apart over something dumb. I'm driving to Houston and get it taken care of. But not everyone that got into real estate or got into lending, takes their job quite as seriously. And to speak to Daphne's point, only the strong survive. The people that are willing to put in some of the really, really rough work. The people that made it through this, hey man, my hat's off to you all, because it has been a roller coaster for sure.
Thank you.
JJ, do you think lower interest rates are good for Austin?
I think
JJ.
Oh, JJ, sorry.
I don't know. Also goes by JJ.
I don't know if you guys realize that I didn't say this at the beginning, but I also go by JJ, so my bad.
As he said that and you started talking, I was like looking at the letters of your name and I was like, is he going off of that J and J?
That's
like, is it like
well,
not put that together.
My coworkers, when I first got into mortgage, started calling me JJ, and it just stuck. It makes no sense. I don't have a J and a J, but they just called me JJ all the time. And so I respond to it. So when you said JJ, I immediately took off. So my bad.
Because JJ is not my real name either.
That's so funny. Sorry, y'all. I forgot.
Okay, so it's tough. I think it's kind of like watching sports. Like, is it good if this team wins? Well, if you're the team that wins, right? So if interest rates are high, I think, well, there's definitely no buyers out there. There has to be a point where everyone that needs the ideal is like everybody gets to get what they want. Like someone finds a good entry point and someone gets to sell at what they want. But unfortunately, there's an inflation point. So, I don't know. I do generally think people should be very educated about what's going on and how they look at their long-term real estate. And if you're purchasing, I think you could find distressed people because the high interest rates we're talking about purging people out, unfortunately, but that's the ecosystem of the market. You could find a good deal. If they're lower, then people could get in the market and people with real estate could get their prices they want probably. And hopefully we're not fighting over properties again, which I don't think would happen. And I think it would lower interest rates would relieve I think there's a little bit of money coming out of the market because of the tech scene is a little smaller. Like we've talked about that. So yeah, generally I just think you should get educated and have a strategy and like watch the market and listen to stuff like this and people like us to strategize. Well, that was like
I think that's a
really
great
good
answer. It's kind of what I was gonna use as a segue to jump into my response in that. I think that I'm a big proponent of saying that it's not the right time for everyone to buy, but it is the best time for those who are prepared to buy, in my opinion. Right now, if you've got a strong job, you're in a safe place, you've got savings saved up, there's never going to be a better time to purchase a house than right freaking now for those people. But then you might have another couple or another person where, they may be, they might have a lower income and they're going to get really, stretched on that monthly payment. And for those, it's not the right time to buy. And so it is difficult to say. And that's why that video that I recorded about perspective talks about what you have to do really is analyze the past, present, and future of the market when you decide to enter it, right? Because someone that bought in 2018, right, might have had a perspective of, man, this is a long-term decision. I'm going to be in this house for 15 years. And they killed it, Right. So they might have been thinking about 2 or 3 years and they still killed it. That was just kind of random luck of the draw because of what happened in that market. But someone that bought in 2020 had to also do the same thing, is figure out, okay, I'm entering the market. What has happened past, present, future? What are my long-term plans with this house? I think those are the things that people need to study and understand to make a determination about whether or not it's the right time for them individually. As far as rates dropping, I think that as long as rates drop slowly and steadily, I think it'll be a good thing for everyone. Because right now, rates staying up, hurts sellers. That's killing a lot of sellers. And we have to think about those people too, because those are people that have purchased with us before, that have needed to buy a home before. Some of them are really going to get hurt by rates staying up high because they're losing money on their sales. I had a seller, I looked at an Alta statement during a closing. They paid $30,000 at closing to get out of their mortgage because they were underneath, they were flipped. And that was the first time I saw that. And I was like, ouch, my client killed it, but that seller got crushed, right? And so if rates come down too fast, it's going to flip the script way too quickly, where it's going to give all the leverage back to the sellers. We're going to go right back to what we were doing in 2020, 2021, all of these multiple offer situations. And so I just think that, yes, in general, it's good that they go down. I'm hoping that they do so steadily and consistently, because that will help us get back to a normal place. I think 4.5%, whenever that does happen, things are going to fly off the shelves. I think even if they were to get back into the mid 5s, things are going to fly off the shelves because people's threshold has changed, right? Before, people thought, I had people buying in 2021, y'all, 2020, 2021, and I was quoting them 2.5, 2.65, 2.4, whatever. They'd be like, oh man, those rates are too high. I can't buy right now. And I remember being like, what? Like, what are you talking about? This is never going to happen again. And I think that's why the education piece is so important. Providing things like what we're talking about right now, people consuming them, studying them, understanding what the market is when they're entering. I think that's what matters. But I am hopeful that rates will come down slowly.
Can I give just 2 short points? I think if you're an investor right now, if you are an intentional investor, like you're going to buy a house and then rent it out in the future or all that, you're in a good spot to buy. I think a lot of accidental investors will get purged, or accidental landlords is what I meant to say. So what I mean by that is people that bought houses and they were like, well, I can afford 2 or 3 right now, or I've got this house, I can still afford to buy another one, but they became landlords because of circumstance, because rates were so low. Those people will be purged out of the industry, and then you're just going to have the people that are like building a true portfolio, care about the community, all that. That's what you're going to end up getting, because right now you can actually profit. You can cash flow on some houses where you couldn't do that a little while ago. So I think that's important. And then I think I told you I had a client who closed last week, and her to the table dollar amount was $90.
Yeah.
She brought $90 to the table, right? Especially if you're buying multifamily or something like that. Now, obviously, it depends on how much you're putting down, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there are a lot of investors that have multiple properties that are exiting. And I have people leaving the Austin market right now because they're not going to buy more today. So if you have cash, if you're cash rich, you might be in a good spot. What I would like to see, to your point, Alejandro, is right now, let's say we're at 6.5, 6 to 7%. We know that it's a buyer's market. We know that at 2 and 3%, it was a seller's market. So I'd like to see it right between the two, like 4.5, 5%. I think that'll be the best for Austin, Texas, and our real estate market being balanced.
100%. Literally hit it right on the head. For me personally, at 4.5 to 5.5 is going to be healthy for both sides. Lots of balance. I think that that's a great place to be. One of the things that I think is interesting, maybe we could talk about it the next time, or if you guys want to talk about it now, totally fine. But one of the things that I think is going to be really fascinating is that as rates come down, right? We talked about the amount of houses that we had in inventory. It's going to be a really weird thing because if rates come down, people are going to come out of the woodworks, right? There's going to be more competition, more offers, but then also at the same time, more houses are going to get listed because those people that have been sitting in their homes at 3.5, 4%, they might say to themselves, okay, 4.5, 5, that's not too bad. Like I can re-enter at that. Like I'll take a little bit of a hit, but it's not too bad. The ones obviously that are going to hold at the sidelines are going to be, for as long as possible, are going to be the 2s, the 2.3s, the 2.4s, the 2.5s, people that are in those mortgages that don't want to move. Like they want to stay put for as long as possible. But it's going to be interesting when rates come down and all of those elements are in this soup to kind of see what ends up happening to the market is going to be really fascinating.
All right.
Yeah. Cool.
It's 2:00. We've been on for an hour.
We have. Cool. So closing thoughts. We have a couple different point of views and opinions on what could potentially happen. I think we all agree interest rates are probably not going to drop by any significant amount. Definitely not this year. They said that they would earlier by Q1 of this year, and it hasn't happened. I don't anticipate it happening. I think we all don't anticipate it happening. And I think it's safe to say the market's probably going to close. It's probably going to hold for a little bit longer, maybe another year and a half before we start seeing any notable adjustments. So there we are. So thank you guys so much for joining us today on the Real Estate Lab. Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you, JJ, for joining.
Thank you, JJ.
JJ's, both JJ's.
Love having guests on. It's great to get different perspective and just another brain in here in our little real estate pot.
Thank you all so much for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.